Hi, I'm Sam from Candy Consulting and welcome to Sustain Talks. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Richard Collins, founder of CSR Accreditation, a leading UK-based company delivering a global standard for social responsibility, and a company I'm proud to support and work closely with. I've learned so much from Richard and from the team about social responsibility and why it's important than ever to consider the environment and your social impact in business in today's world. Really pleased to have you, Richard, and can't wait for you to share it with everyone else for all the things I've learned. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for the invitation, Sam. I'm been very much looking forward to this, and I really hope I can create some enlightenment around what we do and how that has those positive impacts that you've already referred to.
Good. Well, tell us a little bit more about CSR accreditation and how it came about and what it is.
Well, it's an interesting journey for me because my background is a branding background, and I kind of associated or made that jump, I suppose, to the idea that branding is about reputation. And many moons ago, I was lucky enough to win a Green Apple Award for environmental best practice. Some work we did about noise pollution in conjunction with Heathrow and I think it was Slough Borough Council at the time. But that introduced me to the Green Organisation, and it was at the Green Organisation that I realised that businesses and organisations were using the awards as part of their brand language, especially as we kind of move forward. So we're going back 25 years when we won the award, and then sort of 15 years ago, we started to see a shift in the way people were referring to the awards. And that kind of led me to put a connection between, brand reputation, business reputation, and environmental best practice. But I felt that was limiting, and I wanted to look at that bigger topic of sustainability. So I don't think of sustainability as being a purely, environmental endeavor. Of course it is, but it's not exclusively. And so I wanted to kind of like broaden that out. And I kind of co-founded with the Green Organisation, the International CSR Excellence Awards, which I've been running for around 12 years now. But as a result of that, it led me then to look at what an accreditation might look like, or even if there was one. I mean, we weren't sure at that point if there was one, and we did some research into this and discovered that in the UK and largely around the globe, I mean, there are accreditation models in places like India, for example, and South Africa, but in the UK there certainly wasn't anything like that. And that brings me up to relatively up to date, because it was at that point that I thought, well, why not define social responsibility for a new era? Let's explore what social responsibility is, and then let's kind of create a new framework that's kind of relevant for all organizations. And that's kind of what we started to do about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
So let's talk about the letters CSR and what that actually means.
So I think the thing is, it's funny because, again, it's that classic error, I suppose, that human beings make in the way that we assume that everybody knows what we're talking about. And actually, we kind of have to go back. And I kind of dive straight in with the idea of CSR, or corporate social responsibility. But I felt that wasn't inclusive enough. And I think what we did is we kind of re-ran with that. And then, subsequently, we've kind of looked back and said, right, let's really try and define what CSR is, because it's a bit fluffy. It's a very broad church. And I wanted to create some sort of definition around social responsibility. So the first thing we did is we established a statement that kind of is really the idea that social responsibility allows you to enrich the quality of lives for all by investing in social value as an essential part of an organization's culture. This provides purpose and impact and will ensure a sustainable and profitable business. And it will help to build a better world for future generations by improving the environment and ensuring a cohesive community to work and live in. And I think that was our overarching statement. But beneath that, we wanted to look at the inclusive C. So going back to, what does CSR mean?
Yeah.
Well, of course, traditionally it means corporate social responsibility. That wasn't inclusive enough. And I wanted social responsibility to be for us all, not just for organizations, but for us as individuals, as people, because, stuff matters to us. The climate matters to us, mental health and well-being matters to us. Inclusivity and diversity matters to us. And we need to bring that into the places that we work, and we need to see that our businesses and our organizations are doing that. So we redefined the C to mean community, to mean company, to mean charity, to mean consumer, to mean citizen, to mean climate, and best of all, to mean collective. or collaborative, in the idea that we can all work together to deliver social impact and social value and make a difference, you know, as I've said earlier, for the world that we live and work in.
Yeah.
Carry on, sorry.
No, that's fine. I just think it's so, when people aren't sure about it, and so many times people have said to me, what does CSR mean? But you particularly work in 4 pillars, so that it breaks down a little bit more easily. Do you want to talk about those individual pillars?
Absolutely. Well, this is really pivotal, because, you know, we've got that overarching statement. We've got the inclusive C that creates that kind of, you know, that inclusivity for social responsibility. And then we have the 4 pillars of environment, workplace, community, and philanthropy. And what those pillars do is they don't only just establish a framework that people can recognize and identify, because, you know, people want to know what they can do. And often, you know, people talk about social responsibility or sustainability, and it can be very kind of, there's a lot of, you know, high and lofty kind of explanations about how we can work together as businesses and so on and so forth. But individually, how can we do things? What are the little things we can do that all add up to make a big difference? And we can look at those 4 pillars. And, you know, any organization can look at the environment pillar and says, what are we doing now? What are we doing today in the environment pillar? What are we doing in the workplace pillar? What are we doing in community? And what are we doing in philanthropy? And examples of that, you know, under environment, you know, do we have a waste management program? Are we recycling? Do we turn the lights off at night? Is there a cycle to work scheme? And within the workplace, you know, are we looking at apprenticeships, investing in our staff, mental health and well-being, inclusivity, and so on and so forth, and, you know, ethical procurement, and the list goes on. And with community, it's not just about charitable stuff. It's about supporting the community in terms of economic development and investment, recruiting locally, buying locally, supporting local issues. And with regards to philanthropy, it's about providing staff the opportunity to volunteer, deliver pro bono, fundraise, and actually build long-term meaningful relationships with the third sector, where we can impact report and actually deliver, you know, the outcomes of that support for the third sector. So all organizations can look at those pillars, and they can all, and even individuals can look at those pillars, and they can identify what we are doing now. Because the great thing, I think, about the framework we've established and the inclusivity we've established is that we're all doing this stuff. We're already doing it in many cases, and most of those pillars overlap. So, you know, you could have an example where a business wants to support an environmental charity through a team building workshop that delivers community engagement, and therefore you're looking at those pillars and you'll bring them together and you're delivering an impact. And I think the most important thing really is that once you've started to look at those pillars and look at what you're doing within those pillars, you've started to benchmark a journey which you can measure, record, report, and communicate from. Yeah.
And why, I mean, like, I know that you've seen so many more companies and people showing an interest in this. Why do you think it's so important now, today? Why do you think it's all of a sudden taking a step up?
Well, I actually think it always was important. I just think that there was no language for it. There was no accessibility for it. So people kind of always people are good by and large, I believe. And people do good things. But I think the pandemic has actually given us pause for thought. There is a kind of reset, and I know people talk about this and the new normal and so on and so forth. But I actually think the pandemic reintroduced us to an old set of values that we lost sight of. I think we got so carried away with our digital online lifestyles that we lost sight of some of those old values. And I think the pandemic said, have a deep breath, look at those blue skies, you listen to nature, look at your neighbors, what can you do to help, look at the community you work in, how can we support that, you know, look at the charities, look at the local businesses. And I think it kind of made us think, actually, there's more to life, you know, than we think, and we can do something to make a better place. And I think this is an absolute sea change, going back to that inclusive sea, you know, this is a genuine sea change. And I think, so there was a journey, there was an adaptation predominantly by those corporates. I think we've seen a shift. I want charities, I want SMEs, I want all businesses, sole traders. I want them all to be able to look at those 4 pillars in this framework and then be able to go, you know what, this is something I can work with. and deliver something that I'm already passionate about and already doing. So we're not bringing something new. We're just creating a roadmap to help people deliver this and measure it and record it.
And for a business, there are a lot of benefits from going through it. You know, it's as well as obviously being a good ethical business. There are other benefits, right?
Well, absolutely. I think this is the other thing that I often say, that the future shape of business will be measured in social value as well as financial value. So I think the thing is that we are now shifting what we feel the word value means, and how value can be looked at as that social value as well as that financial value. But there is that return on social investment. And of course, you know, businesses are in business to make money. There is a bottom line concern. We have to kind of like keep the shareholders happy and so on and so forth. And we can start to look at what that return on social investment is. I mean, largely, it's staff engagement. It's reducing absenteeism. It's retaining staff, so we don't have to retrain. So there are costs there. One of the biggest areas that we found is recruitment, especially the new generation of talent who are really scrutinizing an organization's website before accepting a job. And I believe that this is almost over wage. I think wage was king. I think this is shifting. And we are seeing students leaving universities and choosing to go into the third sector or the public sector because that's where they're getting that sense of purpose and value above and beyond the job title and the pay grade. So I think, and we're seeing a younger generation below, you know, even below that, the 13, 14, 15-year-olds who are really starting to think about the world that they live in. And so recruitment is massive. And I think, you know, what's the cost of not getting the right staff into your business, not getting the right talent? And also the older generations who are thinking of shifting their jobs because they now want to do something that delivers purpose and value. You know, how can we deliver that for them? How can we create that enrichment of their lives by allowing social responsibility to be part of their job description? And then, of course, and I'm sure you'll mention this or you'll come on to it, but of course, the low-hanging fruit really is operational cost savings. You know, strip out and put in LED lights, you make savings, shut doors, turn off, you know, close windows, regulate the temperature, look at your travel, look at your waste. You know, you can make savings there that you can, you know, absolutely record and note. And of course, in terms of tendering, supply chain, you know, bidding and so on and so forth, we're seeing a massive amount of requirement for social value to be in the bidding process and the tendering process. And what's the cost of losing tenders? What's the cost of not being in a supply chain? Because people in the supply chain are demanding that you deliver social value as part of that commitment. And then back to my beginnings, my origins, back to reputation, brand reputation, business reputation, you know, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And people are loyal to that. They want to see that. So the benefits go on and on and on, and they are core to all business strategy. This is now not kind of something over there nice to have. This is an incredibly important part of business strategy, and it's part of HR, part of finance, parts of facilities, recruitment, and so on and so forth. And whether you're a sole trader or a multinational, this is core to the way you should be developing and running a business. And
that financial part and the investment part, we hear a lot these days of people mentioning ESG, and that does fit into CSR, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we define ESG as being the way that you measure social value. So, and actually ESG is predominantly a tool used within the financial sector, and it's kind of almost about risk management. So the financial sector will look at businesses who are looking for acquisition or for merging or, you know, to create value for the future. And I think that, you know, that environmental social governance compliance, the reporting for that, is to make sure that if a company is going into a merger or being bought or whatever, that it doesn't provide a risk down the line, that it is doing the right thing in terms of its workforce, in terms of governance and the environment and so on and so forth. But I think you have to have that social responsibility program in place, because ESG needs to measure something, and it can't measure something that's not there. So I think there is that connection between, you know, social responsibility and those four pillars, which become really neatly aligned to those to the ESG agenda.
The whole sort of conversation about CSR and why you should be accredited and what, you know, and is it going to affect climate change? You know, we hear so much about climate change in the environment, especially at the moment. How does that all fit in?
Well, I kind of like to think of what we're doing, CSR accreditation, as being kind of a holistic approach to a sustainable and profitable future for all organisations. And therefore, those 4 pillars can help you address climate change. They can help you address your sustainable development goals. Your ESG recording. If you want to go for something like B Corp certification, you can use this framework, or the Social Value Act, or all sorts of other things. So the thing is, within the environment pillar and the workplace pillar and the community pillar, all of the and the charitable pillar, the philanthropy pillar, there is an opportunity for businesses to look at what their touch on the environment's like. How can they start to reduce it? And so often we have companies who say, what we're really doing all these things to reduce our carbon footprint. And you challenge them as to what their carbon footprint is, and they don't know. So they've not kind of recorded what their carbon footprint is, even though they've got processes in place to reduce it. And I think this sort of helps kind of focus that thought. I mean, we've got to put it into perspective that all businesses and organizations are busy doing what they do. And we're trying to encourage them to bring in some processes that help them look at these other things that have an impact on the success of their business. And as I say, all organizations are already making efforts to do these things, but this helps frame it and put it into a process that you can then take forward. So when you become accredited for the first time, you are basically auditing and benchmarking that. And then in 3 years' time, when we want you to re-accredit, and we will put in an annual health check to show to make sure that you're continuing your journey. We want to see that you've made progress, so that you can start to record your carbon footprint and the reduced impact that you are having on the environment. And of course, this is there are increasing drivers that businesses are beginning to put on, especially within the supply chain, around that carbon zero agenda, and insisting that businesses within the supply chain are delivering on that by the deadlines that have been set.
Yeah. It's been an interesting year, to say the least. Has there been something over the last year that you've learned? In terms, I suppose over the last year, it's funny because I have the things that inspire me and influence me, but what I've learned is the impact that the pandemic has had on people, and the conversations I have every day with people, and the passion that people have, the individuals have, for doing something right. Again, I've always been driven by this as an individual, and the last 18 months has really woken me up to that impact that people want to make, to the difference they want to make, and the individuality of ideas that individuals have. So again, we have a white paper approach to our accreditation model. It's not a box ticking exercise. And that allows individuals within an organization to select things that matter to them, and to see that innovation. And that, so I've learned so much, from the organizations that we work for. But in terms of, it was the Simon Sinek book, Start With Why, was a book I was given a few years ago to look at. And the thing is, we started with why. That is the thing, and actually having because it was, why is this important? We didn't say, we didn't want to kind of go into the what and hows at that point. We just wanted to understand the why. And it was so reassuring to read that book and kind of, back up and support, the idea and the premise of what we were doing. But, but going back to my teenage years, or my sort of my 20s, I think James Lovelock was an inspiration for me in terms of the Gaia theory and the idea of that whole, the system of the planet working together to create that sort of global sustainability. So he was somebody I was always, influenced by in terms of, some of the stuff he was doing in some of his early books. So just finally, a company, if they're starting out in their CSR journey, they don't know where to start. Where's the best place for them to go? Right, let's just start by doing this.
Well, obviously, I'm going to suggest they register to become CSR accredited by registering, which you can do for absolutely no cost. There's no commitment, but it does give you a guide. And also, we have a really good resources page. The resources page not only has interviews with individuals that have come through, or businesses or organizations that have come through the accreditation model, but it has a kind of CSR roadmap, interactive PDF. There are tools that you can use. And as I say, by registering, you get a guide to the accreditation that goes into those 4 pillars in detail and delivers the lists that you can look at as an aide memoir to what you're doing. And we also provide, global digital online CSR training, which is a 6-module course. Each module is about 45 minutes. At the moment, we're doing those as 2-hour sessions over 3 weeks. So I think the next training starts around the 28th of September, then runs for 3 weeks, but all the details are on our website. But the training is a great way to give you, to say another word I've not used is enablement. The training creates the enablers. Businesses need enablers in order to deliver social responsibility, and all organizations have those enablers within their organization, within their structure. So the training really helps to build that enablement and then create those people within the organization that can help deliver the social responsibility that business or organization wants to do.
So people can go to your website or find you on LinkedIn. It's csr-accreditation.co.uk. But they can look you up on LinkedIn. I'll certainly tag you in this interview. Richard, it has been a pleasure as always. I always learn from you, and you always inspire me. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing as well. I think it's so important. And it's been a real joy to speak to you and delve deeper into. And there's your cat. Hello.
I'll just remove him quickly. Thank you very much, Sam. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we're really, really proud to be able to support what your journey is and what you're doing as well. And
thank you.
So I hope that's been useful for your listeners. And
it's been really good. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.